we have an exciting night tonight on Black Authors Matter TV. So for those of you who have tuned in, we're very excited, and I know the anticipation is building because at the end of the show, we'll be announcing the finalists for the Black Authors Matter TV Awards in 16 categories. So we're going to be doing that in the final segment of the show. I'm Gwen Richardson. I'm your host for tonight, along with my co-host,
Dr. Rhonda Lawson. Hello, everybody.
And if you all tuned in last week, I was having all kinds of issues with allergies and coughing, and then I was in bed for 3 days, so it was not, I guess my body was telling me something, but I feel great tonight, and my energy is back, and looking forward to, tonight. Before we bring on our first guest, I do have some announcements. First, you all may have tuned in and seen Yusuf Harris. He was on our show September 7th, and he had a bookstore in Nashville called Akibalan Images. And we just found out yesterday that he passed away in January, which we didn't know. So, and I have known him for 20 years. So that's really sad news. And we posted the interview of him on the site to, as a dedication to him, and it'll be highlighted for the next week or so. So if y'all want to go and check out his interview, he had a lot of wisdom to share about a lot of things. So,
and if you ever were in the Nashville area and visited his store, I had the opportunity and the pleasure of visiting his store when I went to Nashville back in November. Unfortunately, he wasn't in the store that day, but it's a great store. He had lots of items, not just books either. He had books, he had posters, anything that you can think of that had to do with the Black experience, he had it. And I think I left them quite a few dollars with him.
Yeah, so I don't know if the store is going to continue or not, but we'll see. For tonight, we do have a sponsor for tonight, and our sponsor tonight is Dr. Eve Taylor, and she's an author, and she wants to share a video about her new book, The Torn Fabric of America. So we have a video manager in the background helping us tonight. He happens to be my stepson, Robert Richardson, very tech savvy. So he is going to play Dr. Eve Taylor's video.
I am Dr. Eve Taylor, author of The Torn Fabric of America, The Racial Divide, Black and White. I am a 75-year young Afro-American woman who lived through the Jim Crow era. I grew up with a Black Baptist preacher father and a light-skinned Black mother. My destiny was determined when I was 8 years old, living in the Deep South, to write this book. A Jim Crow white man asked my father, "Why is this little quote in quote, word, gal, carrying this white baby who was my niece?" Someone said, "Yesterday's history is tomorrow's mystery, and today is a gift. That is why it is called the present," end quote. I was introduced to the civil rights movement volunteering with the great leaders in Atlanta, Georgia in the early 70s. Our Black history was expressed by Harriet Tubman, and I quote, "Every great dream begins with a dreamer. Always remember, you have within you the strength, the patience, and the passion to reach for the stars to change the world." After the murder of George Floyd, this book became my reality that the torn fabric of America, the racial divide, Black and white, inspired me to write this book using the backdrop of the Afro-Americans' history of our slavery roots. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. stated it best, and I quote, "So the question is not whether we will be extremists, but what kind of extremists we will be. Will we be extremists for hate or for love?" End quote. And because today we're fighting for our civil rights once again, our voting rights, which are being challenged today, I would say to everybody, get a copy of this book. It is an easy read and you won't be sorry. Order the book on Amazon.com and you can get it in paperback or an ebook. God bless and take care.
What a great video. I like that.
Yeah, so we thank Dr. Taylor for being a sponsor of tonight's show. And we have some other announcements, but because we have the video, we're going to go ahead and bring on our first guest. And then I'll do some announcements after this first interview. So our first guest is a very well-established children's author. Her name is Kelly Starling Lyons. And she has a new installment to, I believe it's a book series, but she has lots and lots of children's books that she's written. So she's going to tell us all about Ty's Travels, which is a series. And the latest book in the series is called Lab Magic. So she's going to tell us about Ty and his travels and what prompted her to write this series. Welcome, Kelly, to Black Authors
Hi,
Matter.
thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you. You look like you're almost a kid yourself.
Oh, oh, thank you. God bless you.
So tell us about your new book first. I see it behind you, Ty's Travels, and it's a series. How many books are in the series, and what's the series about, and what led you to write on Ty's Travels?
Sure. So thanks, first of all, for having me. It's a real honor to be here. Ty's Travels is an easy reader series. It's part of the I Can Read imprint of HarperCollins. So blessed and so honored to be part of the series. I'm the author, and the illustrator is Nina Mata. And so far we have 4 books. There's going to be 8 total. Lab Magic just came out in January. The idea of the series is to celebrate Black boy joy and the power of imagination. When we look at easy readers, there are very few that have Black main characters. So I was so excited to have the opportunity through my editor, Tamar, who invited me to submit an idea for a series for her consideration. I actually got that chance when I went to a conference called Quayle, The Color of Children's Literature, which, if you're not familiar with it and you're interested in writing for kids, it's one of my favorites that I highly recommend. Tamar happened to be in the audience of a panel that I was doing and invited me to submit an idea. So that's how it all came together.
What? Wow, can you spell Quayle?
Kweli, and it's founded by Laura Pegram, and it's held in New York City. This past year, it was hybrid, part of it online and part in person. But I'm sure as we move out of the pandemic, it'll be back to being live. And there's nothing like it. It feels like you're going home, because there's just, the whole space is filled with people of color, Native authors, Black authors, and editors and agents. And we all get to see each other and share stories and have that community. So it's, definitely a welcoming space.
Something that you mentioned while you were talking is that she was in the audience when you were on a panel discussion.
Yes.
And for me, that solidifies something that I've always said, is that you never know who's watching.
That's right.
You should always put your best foot forward, because you had phoned it in that day. Think of the opportunities you could have missed.
I know, absolutely. And the panel was actually about chapter books. Along with having the Easy Reader series, Ty's Travels, I have a chapter book series about a character named Jada Jones. And so I was on a panel talking about Jada and shared that I got into writing children's books because I loved picture books. But when an opportunity came up for me to stretch and to grow and to try something new, I said yes. And so when we left the panel, she said, I love that you say yes to things. Would you be interested in submitting an idea for my consideration? Because we'd love to have more diversity in easy readers. And so I said yes. And we have Ty.
I love it. Yes.
So define easy readers. Is it 4 to 8 years old, basically?
So easy readers and the kind of span of different books for kids. I think most people are familiar with picture books. So those are typically about 32, can be 40 pages. They have that beautiful art. We often call them lap books, where you can imagine maybe a kid on your lap as you're reading it to them. Easy readers are meant for kids to gain confidence in reading on their own. So my series is my first easy reader. So for preschool kids who are just learning how to read, learning how to sound out words, and learning to look at the picture to get a clue about the meaning of the story. And so easy readers are kind of building blocks for kids as they're becoming independent readers. And then the step up from that would be chapter books, and then so on.
Okay, that's great.
So I really do, I like how you actually broke that down, because a lot of times we hear children's book authors, and
Right.
and it becomes kind of a general term. And breaking it down that way, we show people that there are different types of children's authors. Being a children's book author isn't just one genre. There's so many.
Absolutely.
different
Yeah.
facets to it. So my question to you is, why did you choose the path that you chose when it came to being a children's book author?
Yeah, so when I thought about, and I should say, before I wrote children's books, I was a journalist. So I wrote for newspapers, I wrote for Ebony magazine, and actually it was at Ebony, was a feature writer, but I was also the bookshelf editor. And that's where I kind of felt that calling to write for kids. A picture book came across my desk called Something Beautiful by Sharon Wyatt. And it's this beautiful story of this little girl who learns the word beautiful in school, and then goes around a community searching for what people consider beautiful. Could be the shining apple somebody sells on the stand, or the smooth stone that someone carries in their pocket that's full of memories, or the sound of the double Dutch rope on the sidewalk. She goes home and she looks at the graffiti on the wall, the broken glass on the ground, and asks herself, where's my something beautiful? And decides to create it. She cleans everything up, and her mom calls her the most beautiful one of all. So that was the book that really, I was just blown away by the power that that book gave to kids, to feel seen, to feel loved, to know that they could create change where they are, in ways that not just lift them, but that lift those that are in their communities. And so that's what really called me, that idea of being able to center our kids, who I remember whenever I was younger, hardly ever seeing us in children's books.
Right.
And wanting all kids to know that they matter and they have value, and also that they can tell their own stories. So, part of what I do, I'm a children's book author, but I'm also an advocate for Black children's book creators. I'm a founding member of a blog called The Brown Bookshelf, and we've been around for more than 15 years now, and we celebrate Black authors and illustrators. And so it's really important for me to make sure that our books are reaching the kids that we serve, and that also that we have ways to connect through libraries, through schools, through people having our books in their homes, because they really can, make a difference in a child's life and in the life of those that are around them. When you think about that invisibility, when you're in a space where you're never reflected in the pages of books, or you see a book list and there's no authors that look like you, or, you're in a library and all the face out books, there's no one looks like your mama or your uncle or your brother. What does that do to your spirit? And so that's really what my intention is in writing and celebrating books that are by us, to make sure that we know our value and that we are nurturing and inspiring the next generation of writers.
I used to read a lot of children's books and young adult books growing up. I mean, I was in love with Judy Blume books. I probably read every Judy Blume book that's out there. And I used to read the Sweet Valley High series.
Yeah.
Those were the books that I grew up on. But I didn't realize until later that those books did not have any characters who looked like me.
Right.
So even though I didn't think about it then, growing up, looking back, the standard of beauty, the standard of being a young kid and just being, was normally a non-Black person. I mean, with the Sweet Valley High twins, they always talk about how beautiful they were with the long blonde hair. So
Right.
made us think we needed to have long blonde
Right.
hair in order to be beautiful. So sometimes I think it's nice to have brown characters who are just being kids. It doesn't have to be
That's right.
teaching you a lesson type thing.
Right.
Just having kids who are just being kids to show that, okay, you might be a black or a brown child, but it's okay to just have fun being a child.
Right. And that was really the goal with the Ties Travel series, just to celebrate that fun and the wonder of childhood. You know, part of what I do here in Raleigh, where I live, is I help lead a book club for Black boys. And when I look at them and see how they're full of adventure and they're funny and they're so smart and kind to each other, and then you look at books and you're like, where are these kids? You know, we need to have these kids centered. And it's not that there aren't books that are featuring, you know, kids like those in the book club and those in our families. It's that we don't get the same level of marketing support in some
Exposure.
cases. We don't get the opportunity to, you know, have our book center stage. And so the community who would support the books, if they knew more where to find them, you know, they kind of fall through the cracks and they get overlooked. And what that does is, you know, for publishers who, you know, want to do the right thing, but they're also motivated by the dollar. And if the books aren't selling in high numbers, it's going to be tougher to get more. And so that's why what you all do is so valuable, you know, giving us this space and this platform to be able to share our books and connect with our community who really understands why we need to have books that, you know, celebrate our children and what that can do to their, you know, self-esteem and their view of where they can go in the world.
Right.
Yeah. So tell us about Ty's travels and where does Ty go on these travels?
Yeah, sure. So in the first book, which is called All Aboard, Ty is wanting to play. Everybody in the family is busy. And then he sees a cardboard box. And for kids, you know, a cardboard box is not something to send stuff in. It's not, you know, it can be a whole world. So he turns it into a train. And then one by one, the family join in the fun. So it's really about, you know, imagination, but also about family and also about problem solving, you know, figuring things out on your own. So book 2, Zip Zoom, Ty wants to learn how to ride his scooter. And he imagines that his scooter is a race car and he's having trouble at the starting line. And then, you know, over time and through practice, he finds a friend who helps him get on the right track. So that's what that's about. And we were really thrilled that it won a Geisel honor. The Geisel is the highest award for easy readers. And it, Zip Zoom won a Geisel honor award. So we've just been so blessed. Thank you. We've just been so blessed by how people have been loving on Ty and sharing the books. One of my favorite things is when readers send me pictures of kids dressed like Ty and his crew. Yeah, that's really fun. Beach Day, they turn their backyard into a beach. And the most recent one, Ty's Travels Lab Magic, they're going to the Science Museum. And, you know, sometimes when you go, there's age limits on certain parts of the museum. So Ty sees that the lab is for his brother Corey, but not for him. So when he goes home, they create their own lab in the kitchen. So like I said, it's all about problem solving and
is their mom happy with the lab in the kitchen?
Yeah, well, that's the thing too. I really wanted to show the strength of the Black family. So you will see in all the different stories that there's that strong family presence where they're not just kind of witnessing it, they become part of the adventure.
Which is another great statement in and of itself, being part of it and not just watching it happen.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that is so important. I have a children's book series that I did, and I make sure that the parents, it's called Kids Biz, and it's about it teaches children how to earn money for things they want rather than just asking their parents. But the parents are very integrally involved in the things that they do, the projects that they come up with
Oh, that's
to
great.
raise the money. Because for example, one of them is dog walking and dog sitting. Well, your parents would have to approve of, they had to discuss what kinds of dogs, are off
Right.
limits. So,
Mhm.
so it just was it's important to include that family, have that family connection in the books. And I think that is just really, really good. Now, when did you start
Thank you.
writing the children's books? Like how long ago?
My first book came out in 2004, and that
I
was
thought it had
called
been a
Meet
while.
Eddie's Ordeal. Yes, I've been around for 18 years writing children's books.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, I thought
yeah,
so.
really grateful for the people that kind of showed me the way. I have to pay homage and give praise and big ups to Wade and Cheryl Hudson of Just Us Books,
Oh,
which is a
yes.
Black-owned, family-owned children's book publishing company in East
Mhm.
Orange, New Jersey. They were the ones who gave me a chance for the first book, which is part of their Neat series, and published my first picture book, 1 Million Men and Me, about the Million Man March. And they have
Okay.
just been, nurturers and mentors and friends, every step of my journey. And I just feel so lucky to have such a warm welcome into the children's book space, because it can be difficult when you step into a world where it is, though we have a strong number of Black creators, it's still overwhelmingly white in terms of the,
Right.
editors and the agents and different things. And so to come in through a Black publishing company that knew what I was trying to do, that understood the story that I was trying to tell, that had been there for so many authors along the way, and gave me this chance, that gave me such a strong footing and an understanding that what I was doing is part of a long tradition of Black children's book writers, that what we're fighting for now is not something new. We stand on the shoulders of so many people through the generations. And
Yes.
so
Right.
that just gives me so much pride when I think about being part of that continuum of Black children's book creators.
It
Well,
sounds
we're
like
hoping to have one or both of the Hudsons on.
They would be
Um,
amazing. I love them so
yeah.
much.
So
Yeah.
I'm in trying to make the connection. So I might drop your name.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean,
Okay.
many of us can consider them our literary mama and our daddy. So I think that they would be perfect to talk to, because they also speak to many different things. They self-published in the very beginning
Right.
in order to get their break, because they couldn't find a publisher who understood what they
right.
were trying to do. So I think they have such an interesting point of view. And they also, some of your favorite authors came through Just Us Books.
Right.
So, they can speak to many different parts of our history and our journey.
Yeah,
But
they've
it
been
sounds
around a while. Go ahead, Rhonda.
They
I
have.
stepped on your other statement.
it sounds
But
like what you do is you actually carry what you do as a badge of honor. I mean, it's a huge responsibility that you take seriously.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think coming in with them really grounded me in the understanding of the history of Black children's literature, which sometimes, if you go to a chain bookstore and you look around and you don't see many of our books on the shelves, you might be fooled into thinking there aren't many of us writing.
Right.
And, there's a strong community, and there's always been a
right.
strong community of us creating stories for our children. And I think that, along with celebrating and buying books by people that are publishing now, we need to also lift up our classic Black
Yeah.
children's books, and don't allow people to have lists of 100 best children's books and only have one or two of our books on. We should have our own lists of our classic books and classic authors that belong in every household, not just Black families' households, but in every
Right.
household.
Well, that's a wonderful statement. It's so important. So in our last few minutes, tell us what's
Uh-huh.
next for Kelly.
Well, for Ty's Travels, we have book 5 coming out in the fall, and it's Winter Wonderland. So Ty
Okay.
imagines he's going to the North Pole and he wants to see Santa. So you'll have to
Oh,
see
okay.
if he sees Santa Claus or not. The next book that I have coming out, I have a new Jada Jones book coming. That comes later this month. It's called Jada Jones Nature Lover. And like I said, that's a chapter book series. That's book 6.
Okay.
After that, I have a picture book, the one up here on the shelf, My Hands Tell a Story.
Okay.
That one comes out in May. And it's about
Oh.
a girl and her grandmother. They're baking cinnamon bread. And it talks about all the things her grandmother's hands do. And she wonders what her hands will do one day. And through the story, just discovers the power that lives in her hands. So I write, easy readers, chapter books, picture books, and I'm just really grateful for how people have been so open to what I write and willing to share it. And I love, seeing kids read the books and dress up as the characters, and that's why we write. We write for the kids. So thank you to everybody who's been supporting me and all of my children's book friends.
It sounds like we're going to have a product line. We need to have.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I hope somebody hears that and contacts me.
Yeah, it was some merchandising going on.
For sure.
That's really great. If you had to give some advice to people who are interested in writing children's books, what would your nugget of wisdom be?
Yeah, some advice that I received early in my children's book journey. I went to the Highlights Foundation for people that are looking for places to learn about children's book writing. I mentioned Quayle, which is probably my number one recommendation. The Highlights Foundation has lots of wonderful workshops where you can spend time with editors and award-winning writers. But at Highlights, I heard a talk by an editor named Patty Gouch, and the advice she gave was write the story only you can tell. And it resonated with me so deeply because I think it speaks to thinking about who you are, whose you are, your family, your community, your heritage, also where you're from, and using all of that to make your story shine and to give authenticity and to give cultural nuance to your work and intimacy. I think our kids should be able to feel like books are friends and not like strangers. And so when you pick up a book and you can hear your grandma or, see your uncle playing cards or, just see those little moments, those little snapshots that make you nod or make you smile, then you feel like, you've been seen and that books are a place where you belong. And so I would say, write that story only you can tell, dig deep into who you are, and don't worry about, sometimes people worry about specificity being the opposite of being universal. And that's not true. The more detail that you use, the more you show who you are, the more people will find ways that they connect with you. Yes. And my last thing would just be humble and be grateful. Say thank you to everybody. Make lots of connections, make lots of new friends. I want to shout out one other person for your viewers to look into her work, Vanessa Lloyd Scambati, who's the founder of the African American Children's Book Project in Philadelphia. And she just celebrated the 30th anniversary of the African American Children's Book Fair. And she's all about promoting us and making sure that our books are sold and being seen. So just, have an open heart, have thank you on the tip of your tongue, and be real. So thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Kelly, for being a guest on the show, and continued success with all of the writing you're doing and just all the influence that you have with your books and also the Brown Bookshelf. So
thank you.
Kudos on that.
Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for being here, and thank you for all those nuggets of wisdom you dropped today.
Happy to do it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
you have a great
evening.
Okay, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay. We have another guest coming up, and we're going to be bringing her on very shortly. But before we do, I do have a few announcements. Um, uh, One is, let me see. Oh, the voting for the Black Authors Matter TV Award starts Monday. After you find out who the finalists are tonight, you're going to be able to vote for your absolute favorites in those categories so we can determine a winner. That starts on Monday, April 11th, and it continues through the whole end of the month. So you'll have some time to vote and tell your friends about it. Also, for the 2022 National Black Book Festival, registration is open. We are quickly selling out of vendor space. If you're an author and you want to attend, I encourage you to put down a deposit because there's a lot of anticipation this year because we didn't have it for 2 years. So that's the other thing. And then at the end of this interview, I have 3 books I'm going to be giving away. These are all advanced reading copies submitted through HarperCollins. This one, The Movement Made Us. But I'm going to say more about them when I give them away. I just wanted to give you all a heads up so you all can be ready. This one, Patriarchy Blues. I got my green screen up, and see, now it doesn't fade out. I'm so excited. And this last one is The Caribbean Heiress in Paris. So I am going to bring on Katrina Adams. She has, I believe, a memoir, but Katrina is a tennis pro, and that's not common. You know, we have the Williams sisters, but you know, they're not the only people who play tennis. And so Katrina says she has been playing tennis like most of her life. And her memoir is about how you own the arena wherever you are. So,
Great.
Katrina,
So many
welcome
meanings.
to Black Authors Matter TV.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for
You're
being here.
welcome. So tell us about, I know I see a copy in the back. Do you have one that you can hold up closer to the screen of your book?
She said, yes, of course I do.
And it's
There you
called
go. There's always one handy. Always one handy.
Okay, Own the Arena.
Own the Arena. Love it.
So what made you, did you select the title? Lots of times the title selected by the publisher, but what's the message you want people to get from Own the Arena? It's kind of like Own the Room, I think, but you're going to tell us.
Well, the original title was Own the Room, and the publisher thought that I was bigger than a room and renamed it Own the Arena. The subtitle is Getting Ahead, the subtitle is Getting Ahead, Making a Difference, and Succeeding as the Only One. And so an arena can be anywhere you are. It can be a room, your office, your home, your car, whatever that place is, your presence, you should feel that you own it, meaning that you're knowledgeable, you're confident, and you're prepared for whatever that arena is that you walk into. And often being the only woman or the only Black person or person of color in many arenas, this book really kind of talks about my pathway, my journey. Yes, I started playing tennis when I was 6 years of age. I learned a lot through the sport, and being the only one often through my sport, I think also prepared me for when I got to the business side of things, that I didn't feel self-conscious or out of place in these arenas. I always walked in feeling that I owned them.
Now, my question is, how do you get past that initial nervousness? Because there are some people who will walk into an arena and notice that they are the only, whether it's the only woman, the only African-American, the only young person, or whatever it is. And instead of saying, okay, well, I'm about to own this, they start to shrink back because they feel maybe they don't want to stand out too much, or maybe they try too hard to fit in. So how do you get past that initial nervousness so you can own the arena?
Well, it's twofold. Personally, for me, being a tennis player and being a professional tennis player, I was the only one on my side of the net most of the time, unless I was playing doubles. So playing in an individual sport, you know that when you go on the court, you have to be prepared. You have to be confident. You have to have a game plan. You have to have a plan B when plan A is not working, et cetera, to be able to go out and execute and be successful. So the same thing for me, parlayed and translated into the business side of things. I had to be prepared. There's no excuse for walking into a room nowadays, into a meeting, into a reception, without knowing who else is in the room. And if you haven't at least looked up who's going to be there, their background, and know something about them, then shame on you. And so that helps you prepare yourself to go into these rooms where you're the only one, where you can start up small talk with someone because you notice that they either went to the same school you did, or their kids went to the same school, or they're in the same activities, et cetera, to be able to start some small talk to kind of break the ice so that you can feel comfortable in that space, in that room, in that arena, and be able to build a consensus with everyone around, because now you don't walk in there feeling that you're inferior or that you're the only one, because you've made yourself present, you made yourself known, and you've made yourself knowledgeable.
So basically just get out there and get to know people, and don't look,
absolutely.
Don't concentrate on the difference, concentrate on the commonalities.
Yeah, I think our differences are our strengths. And so, we are the ones that maybe you stand out as the only one. And I always tell people, no matter, I'm in a lot of different arenas, and I tell people, no matter if you're Black, white, Hispanic, Asian, you've been the only one of something. And I always look to the men and say, now we know you've been the only one of something. When you walked in a room where your wife and her girlfriends were having dinner or conversation, and you walk in and go, oops, I'll see you later. So there's always someone who's a little uncomfortable initially, but if you know what you're walking into, you can make yourself comfortable from the start. And I'm not saying the jitters are gonna go away immediately, but it is saying be a little more prepared than just kind of walking in blindly.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, Wendy Labatt, I hope I said your name correctly, Wendy. She said we learn from our differences. She's one of our viewers.
Yes, we definitely learn from your differences, and you have to be confident from your differences, because guess what? You're teaching someone else something that they may not already know. And and I think that's the beauty of who we are. We bring so much character to our personalities, and that I talk about owning the arena, and I have 12 winning match points. And so the three most important ones for me are owning your courage. You have to have the courage to be able to step up and step out on the limb to do something different, or to push yourself beyond the limits that you have. You have to own your voice, because you need to use your voice to speak up and speak out about these courageous ideas and thoughts and dreams that you have to move forward. And even more important, to own our identity, whether it's a woman, a Black person, a person of color, whatever that is. You have to be confident in what you're bringing to the room. I always say diversity of thought is one of the most important things that we can have in a meeting and in a conversation. Because if you are always speaking with someone with like mind and like thoughts, you're not going to get anywhere. You're just going to keep pumping each other up. And there's no debate, there's no conversation. But when you can bring someone else with a different point of view, now you have a conversation. Now you can develop, you can grow, you can mature. And it's ever more important in the business space these days if they can have that diversity of thought in the room.
One thing that some people aren't good at, let's say it like that, is respecting other people's opinions. And just because someone has a different opinion, that doesn't mean that you are right and they're wrong, because opinions generally, they may be fact-based, but people can look at the same facts and come to a different conclusion. So I think we're missing that respect for other people's opinions. That is less and less. Some people feel like they have to go on the attack. or, name call or whatever. And if you really believe in your ideas, or you feel like you're confident in what your position is, you don't need to attack the other persons. You just, you don't. But and that
No,
gets
that's
back to
true.
what you
And
were
I,
saying about the diversity and the conversation. You really can't have a true conversation if everybody is agreeing with you all the time. And you don't really learn anything.
exactly. And I think, if you're with someone who's always defensive, I mean, we all have our defense mechanisms, particularly if you feel very strong about something. But if you're with someone who's always defensive, then that person pretty much is not prepared, or they're really not that confident. They're trying to pretend like they're confident in what they're saying, certain issues and thoughts. And so it's very important to listen to the other person and to digest what they're saying and pause, because perhaps they will have a change of thought or ideas based on what you're saying. You don't have to drill it down someone's throat constantly, unless you know emphatically that you're correct and the other person just doesn't have a clue. And even then, at the end of the day, just let it go, because your truth or your facts will supersede anything less than that.
Okay. I know. Oh, go ahead, Rhonda.
Well, no, go ahead. Go ahead. What were you about to say? Go ahead.
I'm figuring that people want to know how you got started with tennis at 6.
Oh, shoot. See, I could ask my question. I was going to ask her the same thing.
We always ask, our minds are always going in a similar direction.
Oh, I love that. I grew up on the west side of Chicago, and I was very fortunate that I always say I stumbled upon the sport. My brothers were 6 and 8 years or 7 and 9 years older than I was. And they were in the summer program that was hosted by the Martin Luther King Boys Club on the west side of Chicago. And every summer that club had a different activity. That particular summer, it was tennis. The park was about 3 blocks away from our house. I went with them every day because my parents were teachers and were teaching summer school that summer. And so I was a tag along sister. And I literally had to sit outside the fence for a couple of weeks because I was 6 and you needed to be 9. But after badgering the coaches and my parents for 2 consecutive weeks, saying that I could be better than any of them, I was a natural tomboy. I had natural athleticism and hand-eye coordination, and I'm a visual learner. So really, after watching what to do and definitely what not to do, when I did have that chance to go out, I loved it from the very first time I struck the ball. And I had a lot of support from my parents, from one of the coaches who was in the program, who took me under his wing. I started playing with him on the weekends once a week during the school year. Then I got involved in another program the following summer, and so forth and so on.
And next thing you know, you became, well, how long did it take you to really catch on to tennis, to where you weren't just playing, you were actually competing?
No, I played my first tournament a year later. The following summer, I played in a 10 and under national tournament in New Orleans, as a matter of fact. And I got to the finals and got a big trophy. I lost in the finals, but I got a big trophy and I was hooked on the trophies. It's very interesting because I always tell people I didn't know that tennis wasn't a Black sport, because I started in an all Black environment with a Black coach. My next groups were Black programs. The next summer was a Black program. My first tournament was the ATA Nationals, which is a Black organization. And so I didn't know anything different until the following year, when I had progressed so much that I started playing in what we call sanctioned tournaments, and started playing in USTA tournaments and USTA programs. And then I show up and I'm the only one, and I'm like, hey, where is everybody? So I love telling that story because it's pretty cool. And I never really thought about it until the last couple of years, really after, in writing the book and kind of reflecting. This book is really a reflection of my life, of present or more current situations that I experienced. And I reflect back on why my preparation through tennis or certain experiences through the sport prepared me for those critical moments in my life to date.
So what did you, after you played, did you continue in the sport? It sounds like you were still involved in the sport, in the business side of the sport.
Pretty much so, yes. So I played junior tennis, high school, college tennis. I played on a scholarship at Northwestern University. I played on the tour for 12 years. And then I became a national coach. And then I'm a commentator since 2003. I still commentate today. But I would say the business side took me to be the president, chairman, and CEO of the U.S. Tennis Association, which also ran the U.S. Open. So that's where I progressed to that height, and now I'm the vice president of the International Tennis Federation, which is based in London. So I'm very much involved in the sport.
So you have seen the sport grow. You've seen representation grow. What have been your thoughts as you've watched the way the sport has progressed over the years?
Well, the sport has definitely progressed. I think, when you look at tennis, it is a global sport, but when you look at it here in America, we have this organization or a league called the National Junior Tennis and Learning Network, which was co-founded by Arthur Ashe, Sheridan Snyder, and Charlie Passerelle 51 years ago. And so through these programs, most of these programs are in the inner cities across the country. I actually run one, the Harlem Junior Tennis and Education Program here in New York. We are able to really provide tennis and educational components to a lot of our kids of color in particular. And there are thousands of other programs that aren't in the NJTL chapter, but there's so many programs where kids can actually join tennis and start playing tennis for free. And so through that baseline of having so many kids of color, as they progress, the opportunities present themselves, particularly on the girls' side. And a lot of the girls stick with the sport. It's the richest sport for women globally. And there are great opportunities and more tennis scholarships to be earned from a female perspective, more so than from the male perspective. But, when I started playing on the tour, my doubles partner was Zena Garrison. I was out on the tour with Zena, Laura McNeil, Camille Benjamin, a couple others. The next wave of players that came out were Chanda Rubin, Jerry Ingram, Stacey Martin, et cetera. And then the next wave was Venus and Serena, et cetera. And so Venus and Serena's rise through the sport really inspired the young girls in particular to really want to be like them and stick with the sport, and they develop. And that's why we have so much success on the women's side with these women that are in professionals on the WTA tour. We're lacking on the men's side, but the boys have too many options and opportunities in other sports and interests. And, as they get to a certain level and they splinter off, they're doing really well in tennis, but yet they might really want to go play basketball or football or something else grabs their attention, or they play long enough to get the college scholarship, go on through college, and then go off into some other business area. But I think as far as the progression of the sport, particularly for Black kids, we've come a long way. We continue to grow, and I think we will, continue to see these numbers up, over the next decade or so.
Do you find yourself in a mentorship role at any time?
Oh, absolutely. I'm definitely a mentor to so many players, male and female, and not just in tennis, but on the business side, or the players that are interested and wanting to make the transition from being an athlete to going into the real world, if you will, and into the, in the business side of things. And so I definitely speak to a lot of players, young players, and non-players as well. But I think, mentoring is one of the most important things you can do to be able to bring up that next generation. The successes that you've had, the mistakes that you made, and how you would do things differently. Fortunately and unfortunately, things are evolving every day. So some of the things that we did, there's a completely different new tactic or way to approach them nowadays. But the most important thing is really listening to the individual, listen to them ask the questions, and really find out who they are and where they want to go. And I think the basic rules of engagement, you can communicate with anyone.
For so long, tennis was viewed as a wealthy person's sport. And by wealthy person, you can read that to mean a white person too. And has changed over the years. And of course, the Williams sisters have taken it to a whole nother level. Just like Tiger Woods changed golf, it was always seen as a wealthy white guy's sport for the longest. And then he changed, and now he's back in the Masters. I don't know how far he'll get this time, but it's a miracle that he's able to come back so quickly just from his injury.
No, absolutely. But that's someone like Tiger. I mean, he's a champion, and he's up there with Venus and Serena in particular. When we look at our sport, yeah, I would say it's a predominantly white sport. I don't like using the word a wealthy sport, because we have millions of Black people who are wealthy in this country and maybe choose not to put their kids in our sport because they have them on a different track. And we often look at, when we see our Black kids or Black players out there, we automatically identify them with being underserved or inner city kids. And that's not always the case as well. So I think it's about opportunity. I think it's about vision. I think it's about direction, whether it's in golf or tennis. But it is about making sure that you have access to it. And the access in our sport is, I believe, 60%, if not 70% of tennis is played in public parks. So it's really about making sure that there are more public park programs that are accessible, and public parks are not just in the inner city, they're everywhere. Then you have that other percentage where you're a country club or tennis club, where you're a member of a club that are providing different opportunities for those people that are inside those clubs. But tennis is definitely a sport for everyone. It's a sport that you can play for a lifetime. It's the healthiest sport out there. I'm not just saying that. That was a survey about 3-4 years ago. It was one of the top 3 healthiest sports that people can play. And so that's also a tool that we try to use to engage parents into getting their kids into our sport, because you're pretty much not likely to get a concussion of any sort unless you fall and hit your head or run into a wall when there are no walls on the tennis court. So, and it's a social sport. So not everyone's going to be a competitive player. Not everyone's going to be a professional player for sure, but it's definitely a social sport that you can have fun and be competitive with and play until you just can't walk anymore.
Well, I like the fact that you said, you made the point early on that you didn't know that it was a majority white sport, because when you started playing, you were playing with people who looked like you. And I think that's why representation matters. Because we do have kids who grew up thinking that it was a white only sport or a rich only sport. They didn't know that they could play the game because they didn't see other people who look like them playing it. So the fact that you were able to start this sport with people who look like you was a very fortunate thing, I think.
No, absolutely. And I think I talk about that a lot in the book. I talk about, my experiences through tennis. In the sport, when you're competing in any sport, really, when you're first starting, you lose a lot more than you win. So I talk about owning your losses, because when the more losses that you have, the more often you go back to the drawing board, to figure out what you can improve on, what you can do better, how you can improve, particularly on the business side, to get that next contract or that next client or whatever that might be. And, it's just as important to own your successes, because too often when we are successive, particularly if it's a lot, you kind of forget how to go back and work on things, because you say everything is perfect and you just keep going. You're successful, so I don't need to change anything. Well, you still need to go back to the drawing board to figure out maybe how you can do something a little more simple in your approach, or, and how you can communicate with others. And so I talk about owning your losses, owning your successes, owning your obligations, because I think once we get to a certain level, it's our obligation to make sure we reach back and pull the next crop forward, because someone was there to pull us forward. Too often people who are successful say, I didn't get any help. I got here all by myself. Nobody gets anywhere by themselves. No one. We stand on the shoulders of those before us, whether it's someone that you admired, that you emulated and that you studied and really tried to follow their path, then that person helped you. But we can't be selfish in how we navigate through life and navigate through business and being successful. So yes, own your arena, but yet understand how you got to own it. Recognize the village that you had, the network that you used, and the choices that you made. And all of these I talk about in the 12 winning match points and Own the Arena.
Oh my goodness.
Oh,
Okay,
boy.
I'm gonna have to read the book, and I'm hoping that you're going to Roland Garros in 2023 because I will be there, and I want you to sign it for me if I see you.
Well, maybe I'll see you before that. Why we gotta wait to go to Paris to do that?
Oh, we don't have to.
Right.
I just need you to sign my book for me.
Yeah, God willing, I will definitely be there. But make sure you go pick up your copy of Own the Arena, Getting Ahead, Making a Difference, and Succeeding as the only one. And then the 12 winning match points are on the back.
Okay.
You can see those. And, it's a great read. It's a great tool. And if you are mentoring someone, I think it's also a great tool to just kind of get some ideas in how to approach that as well.
Wonderful. And I see the book is available in Amazon, Target, Hudson News, Barnes and Noble, HarperCollins.
Pretty much everywhere.
Yes. And your website, which we put into the chat.
Thank you. Yes. If you go to the website, then you can choose where you want. But, the book has been great so far. The paperback also came out this year. This book was published or released February of 21. And the paperback was released in February of 22.
Okay. I have one final question for those who may be interested in tennis or getting their kids in tennis, or, they have nieces or nephews they want to introduce to tennis. What are the 3 key elements to being successful as a tennis player? I know it's as far as physically or the skill set. And I know it may be hard to narrow it down to 3, but for example, if you're short like me, basketball is probably not your sport. So,
it's not about height at all. I mean, tennis is a skilled sport. It's a repetition. So it's something that you have to practice. It's about making sure that you have the right mechanics, and, you can get your child in a local program near you. There are after school programs everywhere. You can go to usca.com/NJTL and find an NJTL program near you, where most of these programs are free or close to free. They may have a registration fee involved, but you can get 10-12 week sessions for $200-$300. So you're averages out $8 an hour probably, which is nothing when you're talking about the sport. Or it's absolutely free, but it's really about repetition, consistency, and dedication.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. And congratulations on the success of your book. And I plan to get my copy too, because I normally don't read motivational books because I've been self-motivated from birth. But you can always learn something. I like the way you broke it down by owning. You own, especially when you said own your losses. A lot of people don't want to talk about losses. And a lot of times when people do motivational books, they don't talk about how the downside of things can really be a come up. You just have to know what part of it to embrace. But thank you so much, Katrina, for being on the show, and continued success with your book and your tennis career.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay. Have a great evening.
You too.
So I don't know if you knew that about me, Rhonda. I don't read motivational books because rarely, I shouldn't say never. I've been self-motivated since birth. So, something I did with my green screen, when I went off camera, I tried it. So this is my first time with a successful, I think, green screen. But when I tried to close my blinds, I'm sitting in front of a window. When I closed my blinds, it did that shaky thing. And it's
that why you look like you were in a a bunch of green smoke. I was like, what is she
I don't
doing?
know. I closed my blinds. So then I opened it back up and it's quit. And it's dark outside. I don't know what I'm learning. I'm always learning something new about this technology that we're utilizing for this platform. So, and we have a lot of exciting things coming up. You all will see them. We're not going to announce everything. We just put it out there and then let you see it already out there, built, already real. So I don't like to talk about things. I like to do things. So, okay, we got the books back and we have our next guest who's going to be coming on shortly. But okay, we have 3 books and we're going to give them away. This first one is by Adriana Herrera. It's called A Caribbean Heiress in Paris.
I like it.
And the trivia question for this book is the name of the main character in this book. So if you type that in, you have to go to the synopsis online, Google it. And the name of the book is A Caribbean Heiress. The author's name is Adriana Herrera. Let me move my pen. Yeah, Adriana Herrera.
Okay.
So what's the name of the main character in this book? That's, if you're the first one to answer it, you get your copy mailed to you. This is a book called The Movement Made Us. This is a father-son book that's like a memoir, father and son. The father was in the civil rights movement, and his name is David Dennis Sr., and then David Dennis Jr., his son, is a writer and educator, and he's a visiting professor at what HBCU? So that's the trivia question. The son, David Dennis Jr., is a professor at which HBCU?
David Dennis Jr.?
His name is David Dennis Jr. David J. Dennis Jr. So you might need the middle initial.
What was the question?
He is a professor at which HBCU?
Okay.
And finally, this book is called Patriarchy Blues, Reflections on Manhood. It's by author Frederick Joseph. And to win this book, tell us the title of his best-selling book that was prior to this one. He had a best-selling book that came out prior to this one. So give us the title and you win that one. And Rhonda's going to monitor the answers and let me know who won what so we can send those out. So our next guest, and I know you all are anticipating finding out who finalists are. So we're going to be doing that in a few minutes, about 30 minutes. We'll be announcing them all. But our next guest is Patricia Ellis, and she is, I'm not sure of her title with the Two Sisters Book Club in Oakland, California, but she is with the book club and she's going to tell us about the Two Sisters Book Club and how old they are, how long they've been around. And we're going to be asking her some questions about what you read and so forth. So Patricia, welcome to Black Authors Matter TV.
Thank you for the warm welcome.
Thank you for being here tonight.
So you're in Oakland, so it's 6 o'clock there.
Yes, it is
right
6 o'clock
6
p.m. here.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So
it's very fancy, by the way.
I just attended a entrepreneur networking mixer and I was rushing to get to the
I'm seeing ruffles and
feather.
I'm like, you don't have to be that fancy for the show.
Well,
it's always fancy.
Well, thank you for making room for us for tonight for the show to talk to us about your book club. So we have book clubs on the show periodically, and each book club has a different story and different rules and different things they read. So tell us about the Two Sisters. First of all, are there two sisters involved, or how did you all come up with your name?
So yes, it is actually two sisters involved. It's myself and my sister, and we Googled book club near me, and we didn't find any. And we like to read, and so we're like, okay, well, what if us together, two sisters created a book club. And so we actually, that's how the name became to be Two Sisters. We're really two sisters.
Well, how did it take off? How were you able to get other people to be a part of the book club?
So when we read as sisters, we get a book, and then usually it has a series, and we read all the books out loud together in a circle instead of each person reading their own book. We read the book together. And so like maybe an hour, one person read, an hour she switched back, and then our friend joined. And then it's different when you read a book as a group out loud, because then the details that you would normally miss if you're kind of reading it in between everything else is not the same. So it became that we would meet maybe once a month at the library, and we would stay there for like 5 hours, and we would just read the whole book.
This is the first. I've talked to book clubs far and wide. I haven't heard of any that read the book out loud. Have you, Rhonda?
I have not.
It's different.
It sounds like it might be pretty interesting.
It is. And then you do it in the library, in the, they have those study rooms, so it holds about 15, 20 people. And so we're like, hey, we got a book club. They say, go on in there and let us know when you're done.
Oh, okay. So how many people do you have involved?
So total, I would say 15. So here's what happened with Two Sisters Book Club. My sister has another friend, and they were having some health issues. And so they created a group called Ladies First 510. That's the area code here. Mm-hmm. And out of that group is how a group of women became self-published authors. So they were talking about health issues like fibroids, menopause, miscarriages, things, cancer that women sometimes as groups they don't talk about. But since we were reading books together, then we thought, why not talk about women's health? And so out of that is how I became an author. And so it's quite a few of us, but each of us have different stories. I self-published 4 books on Amazon. So.
Okay.
So you actually took that and then developed an entire platform.
Yes.
Okay. So when did you establish the book club?
It was about 2010. It's been some time.
Okay.
But here, I'll be real honest with book clubs. Most of them are not consistent. We're consistent for a while. We go on and off, but then we're on. And now since everything is virtual, we've been reading more together, like on Zoom.
Okay, so on Zoom, are you all still reading aloud?
Yes.
Oh, okay. This is,
that might be even more fun. Now everybody's doing their own voice as they're reading the story. I can see that.
Yeah, because some people, I would say they read better is because they enunciate better or they narrate better. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So especially depending on what type of books you're reading. So most women, they like a specific genre. We'll read just about anything as long as everybody agree to read it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And that's what I was going to ask is how do you choose your books? How do you choose what book you're going to read that month?
So usually we go by a list. So December, we said we're going to read these 12 books. And that normally doesn't happen. Maybe 2 or 3 of those to get read. But it's always the new books that's on Amazon, right? Goodreads keep sending you, go read this book, go read this book. And so that's usually how it happens.
I'm in one book club that picks the books for the year in December, like you just described. It's every other month. We meet every other month. And the other club I'm in, we basically pick a book every month. So we'll read a book, and then at the meeting, we'll pick the next book. So we're generally reading new books all the time. And I wonder how many clubs that pick those books in advance like that stick to the list, because this is a problem for me. Like, if I've already read the book, I read a lot of books. So I already read the book that they're discussing, and I don't reread books. I might try to flip through a scan, but if I read it like 8 months ago, I've read 100 books since then. Not 100, but I'm just exaggerating. So I won't remember the details of the storyline. I'll remember the highlights, the arcs. But Do you also, and you kind of confirmed that a little bit for me when you said that you all will pick 12 books and then you might read 2 or 3 of them. Because if there's a new book coming out that, piques your interest or sounds interesting, or that you heard about, a book that's getting some buzz, that people read it and really loved it, and that's, the word of mouth is moving, then you can end up pushing some books to the side. So how are you able to manage that and kind of keep everybody happy?
So usually what happens is we send out an email that says, a Google form that says, these are the 3 books that we could potentially read, and then put a little comment section below that if you have suggestions of what we should read. And then if we all can't agree on one of the 3 books, someone will suggest one, and then we'll just go with that. The way that we read, most people, as you said, they read what's trending, but I like to read books where we can get the author on a Zoom. So many authors say they won't get on a Zoom, but they do. So they'll say, we're booked, or some authors are reachable, but some are not. And what we try and pride ourselves on doing is reading Black author books. I love the way they narrate when they're writing, right? So I could, like, as I'm reading, when you're reading, when you captivate your audience, which it would be me, the audience, you can feel yourself in that situation, right? So some authors, it's quite a few books. You can't see yourself in this book nowhere. You're like, why did I read this book? It doesn't apply. So I like to read books where I can feel myself as a character, right? Okay. So that's kind of, and they have a lot of books about church folks. And so those are the books that we kind of like to read. Gravitate. They tell all the juicy stories.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Well, church folks are church folks. I mean, they're real people, just like everybody. They're regular people. So,
but we can relate. That's why. That's probably
we can. So before we go, I noticed who won the books that we gave away. So this is who won the books. Pamela Courtney won the book by this one. So Pamela, if you will, DM your mailing address. I think Mary won this one, because the answer was Morehouse University or college. Morehouse is a college, isn't it?
Yes, it's a college. It's not
college,
a
not university.
As so my daughter says, that CAU is the only university in the AUC.
Okay. Okay. Like Atlanta. Okay, so Mary Evans won this one. And Stephanie Burnham, who wins a book every week, she got the correct name of the best-selling book for this one. So that is who won that one, Stephanie Burnham. The Black Friend was the name of the best-selling book. So let me write that down. Because sometimes, if I don't do it right now, by tomorrow when I relook at it, I will have forgotten who won what. And I don't want to send somebody else's book. So, okay. Right. So, Patricia, what kinds of books do you all read? Or here's another way of putting that. If an author who's watching is interested in having their book selected by the Two Sisters Book Club, what's the procedure for that?
They can inbox us on Facebook, or I can provide an email address, ellisforoakland@gmail.com. And we would love to read your book. And we read it out loud. I was listening to one of your earlier videos, and I forgot who the author was, but they were saying that, I think it was actually you, Glenn. I think you were saying that you like to have your books read by, I guess, like a trial group before it actually goes to print.
Beta readers. No, it wasn't me, but I do use beta readers for some of my books, not all of them. But I think Rhonda, you talked about that too.
Yeah, I talked about
that was last week's show.
I talked about having beta readers read the book so we can get feedback from actual readers before it actually goes to print.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and book clubs are a good way to do that too.
Mhm.
Okay, it was Nalayla Kai.
Kai.
It was her that was talking about all the beta readers. I always get tongue-tied on her name. Anyway, so they can DM you, or they can send you an email at ellisforoakland@gmail.com.
Yes.
And you'll consider. Now, do you all respond if you don't select the book, or you just receive the email and you only communicate if you pick the book?
No, one of us will respond.
Okay, well, that's good.
What are the things that you're looking for? So, because what's going to happen is we have a lot of authors who watch the show. They're going to contact you. They say, hey, can you read my book? So is there ever a time where you just have too many books where you've gotten overwhelmed? Or do you go through a process where you all vote on a book? And what is it that you're looking for once you get all of these books in?
So I would say the only book that our club would not consider is any erotica books. So anything else, they're okay.
Okay. Yeah, because if y'all are reading out loud, I can see how that might be.
Yeah, that would be uncomfortable.
Y'all might have to be hosed down after the after each chapter.
Just about anything else, including even if any of the authors do children's books. Because here's the thing with adults: before the children reads them, the adult needs to read them and make sure that they're applicable, right, and that they match what the parent is looking for. But we love books, so most of our book club members are professionals. So they like work in HR, they're accountants, they're nurses, they're doctors, they're professional Black women. And they like to sometimes get their mind off of, reality. Right. So a lot of books about self-care, a lot of relationship stories, just, something, church stories, workplace stories, something where you can learn more, get a kick out of it, and remember. Like, because when you read a book, you don't want to just read a book and be like, oh, I don't remember anything about that book, right? Everybody remembers that one line in that one car ride in that one scene in the book. So you want to be able to kind of be able to feel the book, if I could say it that way.
Mm-hmm. Right. It needs to be relatable. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, in the last couple of minutes, we'd like to find out about your books that you said that you had. And if you have any of them handy, you can tell us what your books, you said they were about self-care or health related, but if you have any there, you can tell us about them.
So I actually sent you the links. This is actually not the cover. This is one of the first ones I did. It actually has my picture on it now. It's called Now That I Know, Now What? So I shared a page turner of my actual relationship that was like the worst thing ever. And I shared how it started, how it ended. And then I shared like some of the games that men play. And then I shared how you can get out of a relationship safely. What I think the reason I really wrote my book is so that people don't have to experience the same thing that I have to experience. Many people think that if it's just domestic violence, like violence, that's the only kind of harm or unhealthy relationship that you can have. And that is not true. So it's like mind games and a lot of different things that people play, but mine is like real clean cut, and it's like, it's not nasty, but it's like right to the point. It tells you every detail, and it's on Amazon. Another book that I wrote during COVID, I lost like 110 pounds. It's kind of like a self-help book. So it says that the title is Hello, my name is Patricia and I'm an addict. So most people thought it was like drugs or alcohol, but it was sugar. I was addicted to sugar. And it's a tool that teaches you how to break the addiction from sugar and how to lose weight. Like I tried 20 different diets. Everybody did the Jenny Craig, the Weight Watchers, the Slim Fast, the keto, the this. You could try all that. But if you don't actually identify what the root issue is for you overeating, none of them will work. And so I shared that in my book. And then the other book was 30 days to transform your relationship with your partner. So during COVID, a lot of relationships either got rocky or they just quit, right? Because you're tired of seeing the opposite person. And so I just shared really a 30-day plan of how to transform your relationship, male or female. And the last book I did, I kind of put it off the market because I need to do some changes, but it's called Mommy, I Got a Secret. It's a children's book. It's an education book for parents and educators of how to handle a situation if your child is inappropriately touched at school. So I'm working on getting that back on Amazon because I needed to make some changes. Actually, I'm looking for an illustrator for that one, but yeah. But I love to read. I love to share with women and men. But I think that, especially your platform, is very important that people that look like me, right, that look like us, know that they have value and that sharing their story, even if my book only helped one person, it helped one person to not have to experience what I experienced. And that is just the most, most valuable to me as an author. But there are ways to self-publish. There are ways to use different organizations, publishing companies to help you reach your goal. And I'm so thankful for you two ladies, because I listened to quite a few of your videos and you guys are very encouraging to women. And I just think that is so positive. And just know that even if no one comments, even if no one responds and tell you that they're being helped, I'm helped, right? And I make the difference, and it's like pushed on to others that, you know, there's women online that are building up other Black women to help them reach their goals to read more, right? Education is important, and to be able to share their story through books. Through the group I was telling you about, Ladies First 10, 510, my sister also wrote a book. It's called Caregiver, Take Care. It's a real short read. If you know anyone who has like cancer, that are on hospice, has a child with special needs, it's a really good book because it teaches you how to take care of yourself as a caregiver. Data has shown people who are caregivers die before the person that they're giving care for.
A lot of times that's true. They get worn out and they don't have
it can be stressful. You have to take care of you, and it has to be intentional.
So remind us, where can we find your books?
They're all on Amazon.
Okay, under your name, Patricia Ellis?
Yes.
Okay, and then remind us also if how do people reach your book club if they're interested in participating in that. And did you accept new members since you all are on Zoom?
We do accept new members, and our next one is coming up in September. We have an author. If you go on our page, Two Sisters Book Club, we have a well-known author that is going to join our Zoom. So check it out. I won't share. I'll have you go to the website. It's Two Sisters Book Club. It's an event we have upcoming on there, and she's going to join our Zoom. She's so nice. And that's actually, when you go on there, you'll see the author that got us to reading. As family, you know, one person might read, the mom might read, or the dad might read, but it's actually me and my sister, now my mom, now all of our friends are reading. And so books are wonderful, and long reads are good too. So even if it takes us like 7 hours, we're good with that. And we have like a wine tasting that's going to be on our next Zoom. So we have like a whole planned event. So everybody will get shipped wine and we'll read the book all together. Yes. So that's the way we get down. But we are based out of Oakland, but anyone from anywhere on the globe, as long as you have access to Zoom, you can join in. This one will be on Facebook Live, but they'll also have the Zoom link. So we'll do it on two things.
Oh, well,
but I love to read.
Make sure you send us the link. I would love to support the event. And I'm going to send you a couple of my books as well, because I just released an anthology not too long ago, and I think you ladies would love. And a novella I did a couple years ago, I think you guys would love. So I'm going to be getting in contact with you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But reading is really, really good. And by being able to relate, as you said, with the author in their books, it makes you a reader, and you just can't wait for the next book. But character building is really important too when you're reading, because a lot of books, the reason I read the next book that they produce is because I didn't even fell in love with Timothy. I can't wait to see what Jonathan doing, and Tamika, she just won't get enough.
So I need you to do me a favor when we finish our interview, if you can go into the comments section on the Facebook chat and put in your links, because we have people saying that they can't find Two Sisters Book Club on Facebook. If you put it in the Zoom, I won't be able to copy it over. So
yeah, not in the Zoom. Put it on Facebook in the comments.
Okay, I sure will.
Right, because people saying they're looking for your links, they'd like to support.
Yeah, put it in the comments of this video of the interview.
Okay.
Okay, well, you have a great evening, Patricia. Thank you so much for being a guest on the show.
You're welcome, and nice to meet you both.
And thank you for your kind words. We're glad to know we encourage people.
You're welcome.
That's that was what we want to do. Okay. Well, I could do a drum roll, but we're about to announce the finalists for the Black Authors Matter TV Awards for 2022. Now I need to make sure I have my page. Oh yeah, here it is. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. There's 16 categories, and we're going to take alternate announcing the category and announcing the 5 finalists in each one. And the 5 top vote getters, those are the 5 finalists. So for those who are watching, it's to see if you made the cut, or you can, for those who didn't watch it live, you can play it back. So here we go. We're going to start with the first category, which is African Diaspora. And some of these are combined. So this first one has the African Diaspora, Current Affairs, History, and Politics all together, because we had to have at least 6 people in each category grouping to narrow it down to 5. So the 5 finalists in that category are Ken Gordon, Odie Hawkins, Gloria Brown Marshall, Norman McCullough, and C.W. Porter. Congratulations to those 5. And we put together, we're going to have a video with all the finalists in it that we'll post. It'll be like a slideshow. We're going to post it on Facebook and Instagram. It's not finished yet, but in the next few days, it'll be posted. So, okay. So Rhonda, it's your turn now.
The next category is Anthologies, Health, Wellness, and Relationships. And the 5 finalists are Abiola Abrams, Dr. Gloria Thomas Anderson, Marita Golden, Marietta Mills Jones, and Women of Wise Talk.
So congratulations to the finalists in that category. So we're gonna move right along. And now this was a big category. Some of the categories had a lot of people, so it really had to get narrowed down to the 5. And this was one of the biggest categories, Biography Memoir. So I think we had 15 people in that category, or maybe more than that. And yeah, some really awesome people. So the 5 finalists in Biography Memoir are Malika Adara, Douglas Holliday, Brenda L. Moore, Kadisha Powell, and Sharika Hunt Ross. So congratulations to those 5 finalists. So you're next, Rhonda.
Okay, the next category is Business, Careers, Education, Leadership, and Nonfiction. And the nominees are Charles Chadwick, Valerie J. Lewis Coleman, Lynette Calfani Cox, Jacqueline Williams Hines, and Dr. Wendy Labatt. And she's on right now. I saw her. She's on.
She was on. So congratulations to those finalists. And then now we had to put several together to get more than 6. So we try to group them in logical related categories. So that's more the business leadership, nonfiction. Those are the people who are in that category. Congratulations. So next we have children's, and this was a big category too. We had probably 20 children's authors over the course of a year. So the finalists for children's authors are Tamika Fryer Brown, Carrie Lee Carrington, Sabrina Crumpton, Jean Alicia Elster, and Dr. Margaret Starks. So those are the 5 children's authors that are the finalists. Congratulations.
Moving on to Christian fiction. Our finalists are Rhonda McKnight. I'm Rhonda, but I'm Lawson. Vanessa Miller, Victoria Christopher Murray, Michelle Stimpson, and Tiffany L. Warren.
That was a real competitive category. It has
really
some top names in that category. So congratulations to the 5 in that. Next, we had fantasy, horror, paranormal, and science fiction. So we grouped those together. And the 5 finalists are Chase Bowling, Jeremiah DeValier, Rhonda Jackson Garcia, Norwood Holland, and Anna Riley.
Right. Okay, moving on to historical fiction and romance. The category is historical fiction and romance. The finalists are Brenda Jackson, Sadiqa Johnson, Marissa Monte, Electra Rome Parks and Monica Garner, and Jacqueline Thomas.
And we had one, the Electra Rome Parks and Monica Garner, they co-wrote a book.
Yes.
So they counted as one. That one. Okay, our next category is mainstream fiction. And the 5 finalists are Niobia Bryant, Trice Hickman, Margaret Johnson Hodge, Letitia Lovely, and Omar Tyree.
All right. Okay, moving on to motivational and inspirational. Our first finalist is Dr. Marietta Brown. Next is Loretta Davis. And then Herbert Harris, Noreen N. Henry, and Deborah Thompson.
Okay, congratulations to the motivational, inspirational guests. And I shouldn't say these aren't all, well, these are author categories, but then at the end we have 2 separate categories. So anyway, these are all authors. But everyone who was on the show from March 9th till last year to March, I think it was March 1st of this year, was included in the process. So we have 2 non-author categories at the end. So I just want to say that. Now, the next category is mystery, thriller, suspense. So the 5 finalists are Iris Bowling, Tracy Christian, Tyora Moody, Keith Owens, and Valerie Wilson Wesley.
Right.
Congratulations.
Okay, moving on to poetry and young adult fiction. Our first, there we go. Our first finalist is Mark Lacey. Second is Jackie Moody. Third is Jewel Parker Rhodes. Next is Aaliyah Sky. And then T. Wendy Williams. T. Wendy Williams.
Right. Right. Not Wendy Williams, the talk show host. No. It's T. Wendy Williams. So anyway, congratulations to the poetry, young adult fiction authors. So our next category is religious faith. And this was another big category. Again, it's 15 people. So the 5 finalists are Susan Johnson Cook, Nizia Easterling, Reverend Deborah Jackson. I think she might go by Deborah Jackson. Dr. J. LeRae and Lottie Pitts.
All right. Hey, moving on to urban fiction. First is Zuri Day, and then Angie Lee, and then Ivy Lee, Entice, and a Page Turner. A Page Turner.
I remember that night when he was on the show, and I thought it was a Page Turner. I didn't realize he was doing like a play on words with his pseudonym.
Right.
But anyway, so those are all of the author categories. We've announced all the finalists. And if you missed any of the announcement, again, we're going to have a video that has a slideshow of everybody in it, and it should be up and running by the end of the week. So the next category is bookstores. And one of the finalists, Yusuf Harris, he's passed away, which we didn't find out till yesterday. So he still is one of the finalists, and it would be a posthumous recognition if he were to win. So Yusuf Harris of Bakibalan Images, Nichelle Lawrence of Social Light Society, Aisha Malone from the Rose Cafe, Candace Walker of the Vibrary, and Marcus Williams of the Nubian Bookstore. So these were all bookstores. People voted on their favorite bookstore interviews, and those are the 5 finalists for that.
Right. Okay, next is book industry.
And this is last. This is last.
Yep, this is the last one.
This is the last one.
It was a big category.
Yeah, it was a big category.
And you would give me this name. Okay, I'm gonna see if I can see.
I would rather you have it than me. Okay.
All right. So the first finalist is Olaranke Akinmowo. I think I almost said
that's right. I think that's right. Mm.
Next is LaShonda Hoffman. Next is Carol Hill Mackey, Joy Lynn Ross, and Jerry Woods. Congratulations to everyone.
So thank you all who all that participated as far as being on the show for the last 12 months. All those who voted, we had close to 2,000 ballots cast. So there were a lot of people interested in participating in this process. So the way that it's going to go from this point is starting Monday, the voting for the finalists, well, to pick the winners in each category will start. And it will start at 12:01, right after midnight. It'll be online. You can go to blackauthormattertv.com and there'll be a link there to cast a vote. Those of you who are finalists will receive an email congratulating you and also providing the link that you can share to let people vote for you, because it's not the same link that you had for the nominations because it's different people. So you'll get an email between now and Friday with the link for sharing with friends on voting for you. The voting starts Monday, April 11th. I'm going to say August, April 11th, and ends on April 30th. So that's a really extensive window to vote for the finalists. And then May 17th is the night of the Black Authors Matter TV Awards, and that whole show will be dedicated to presenting the awards to each winner in the 16 categories. And last year we had an extra category, which we'll do again this year, which was top overall vote getter. We had that. So we will announce that at the same time. So it's an exciting process, and we're happy about you all who support the show. We have a lot of things in store coming up for the coming year. The show is a podcast. So if you have Spotify, or we're on 6 different platforms, Apple, Amazon. My stepson, he did on Alexa, he said, Alexa, find Black Authors Matter TV podcast. Came right up. So it's that we're everywhere now. And all the shows are also on our YouTube channel, Black Authors Matter TV YouTube channel. And we're hoping to be live every week on YouTube starting May 17th when we do the award show. That's what we're working towards. That we'll be simultaneously live on Facebook and YouTube. So we're not sitting on any laurels around here.
Not at all. No
laurels
in these homes.
No laurels. And I'm still, my green screen work. I just need to figure out how, because I don't like having my blinds open at night. But when I closed them, it did a funny thing. So I got to figure that out. But it worked.
Like, why is she sitting in green smoke? What is she doing?
I closed the blinds, and there's no sunlight now, but it's still working. So I don't know, it's some little quirk. Anyway, that's it for tonight, folks. Even though we're closing out a little bit early because we announced the finalists, but for those of you all who may have missed the entire list, you can either just go look at the video and fast forward to 8:30 and hear it, or you can wait for this spreadsheet that we created. Well, not spreadsheet, slideshow that we created that has all the pictures. It'll have all the pictures of all the finalists in each individual category. We were gonna do a flyer, but last year the flyer was so small. I said, that nobody can see it. So we decided to do the slideshow this time. So anyway, I'm signing off. I'm Gwen Richardson.
And I am Dr. Rhonda Lawson. And just so you know, A New Renaissance and Trust are now available in paperback on Amazon. So please run out and get it. Every book or every anthology that is purchased, a portion of that goes toward our scholarship fund. So we are trying to send people to college, and we would love your support. So just look for New Renaissance on Amazon and get it in paperback, or you can get it in ebook, but just support the book so that we can send more kids to college.
And congratulations again to the finalists for the Black Authors Matter TV Awards. We love you, and we just love what we do. And we'll see you next week.
This is a fun show, and I love meeting every author who comes through this platform. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you for uplifting the culture, uplifting the industry, the literary industry, and we just wish you all the best. Keep doing what you're doing.
All right, so we'll see you all next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And we'll have another great lineup next week, but we'll just look for the post about it. I'm spent for the night. My energy's gone. So we'll see you next week. Good night.
Bye.